Eighth grade, Mrs. Thulin here with a First Chapter Friday. Okay, this First Chapter Friday is called Not If I Save You First by Allie Carter. It is young adult fiction for sure. So the story is about a girl named Maddie and a boy named Logan. Logan is the president of the United States' son, and Maddie is the daughter of the Secret Service agent who is to guard him. And early on in the story, they're a victim of kidnapping, and Maddie and her dad are sent to Alaska to live this remote life to get out of the way of the kidnappers and to be saved. And then come to find out, her and Logan had some history here and had an issue, and they don't speak. And 6 years later, Logan is sent to live with them in Alaska. And Maddie hates Logan. So Logan gets there, and their camp in Alaska it's under attack. And Logan and Maddie have to escape the attack while also trying to savor the relationship. So it's a good book, kept me on my toes. So I'll start the first chapter. Chapter 1, 6 years ago. Dear Maddie, there's a party at my house tomorrow night. Mom said I can invite a friend if I want to. So do you want to come? Yes, no, maybe. Logan. Madeline Rose Manchester had absolutely no intention of invading the White House, but she knew 7 different ways she could do it if she'd wanted to. After all, Logan had lived there less than a year, and already he and Maddie had found 4 tunnels, 2 pseudo-secret passageways, and a cabinet near the kitchen that smelled faintly of cheese, and only partially blocked an old service elevator that really wasn't as boarded up as everybody thought. Charlie, Maddie asked the big man in the passenger seat of the dark SUV. He turned to look where he sat, her seatbelt snugly around her, even though everyone knew silk wrinkled and Maddie had never had a silk dress before. She'd already complained about it, but Charlie had told her that it was either wear a seatbelt or walk, and her black leather shoes were new and they'd already started to pinch her feet. And Logan had told her there might be dancing later. Maddie dearly hoped there would be dancing. What you need, Mad? Charlie asked while Walter kept driving. Do you know there's a place under the stairs in the East Wing that's full of spiders that died during the Nixon administration? Do you think that's true? I don't think that's true, she said without really waiting for Charlie to answer. I could ask Dad, Maddie went on, but he didn't work here then. At least I don't think he worked here then. I mean, I know he's old, like really, really old, but is he that old? Charlie laughed, but Maddie wasn't exactly sure what was so funny. I'm not sure, Mad, but you should say it exactly like that when you ask him. This sounded like a very good idea to Maddie. Thank you, Charlie. I'll do that. She thought for a moment, then went on. Did you know it's possible to crawl all the way from Logan's dad's office to the press room using the air ducts? No, Charlie shook his head. It's not. Sure it is, Maddie told him. Logan bet me $5 that I couldn't do it, so I did it. And then he gave me 5 ones instead of 1 5 because Lincoln is his favorite. You can reach the Oval Office via the air ducts? Charlie asked, spinning to look at her. Yes, but I ruined my favorite pink leggings. Then you should definitely tell your dad that. He doesn't care about my leggings, Maddie said, and Charlie shook his head. Not about that. Never mind, Mad, I'll tell them. When they finally reached a pair of tall iron gates, Maddie couldn't help but swing her legs and nervously kick at the back of Charlie's feet. But Charlie just rolled down his window and told the man with the clipboard, We have a VIP guest for Rascal. The guard looked in the back seat and smiled when he saw Maddie. Through the tinted window, she could see other guards circling the vehicle. Dogs sniffed around the bumpers, but the guard kept his gaze trained on her. Looks like a high-risk entrant to me, boys. I don't know if we should let her in. Hey, Felix, Maddie said, leaning forward. Did you know you can fit 2 kids and 3 kittens in the little compartment underneath Logan's dad's desk? If the kittens are tame, that is. I wouldn't want to try it with mean kittens. Neither would I, Felix said, just as one of the men outside announced, You're clear. Then Felix stepped back and waved them through the gates. Have fun at the party. Logan never had fun at parties. In his experience, they very rarely meant pizza and bounce houses and ice cream. Not anymore. Sure, there was usually cake, but they're always fancy cakes that were tiny, and Logan's mom usually gave him that look if he ate more than four. And ever since the time he asked the Prime Minister of Canada if she was going to eat her cake, he hadn't been allowed to sit at the table with his parents. Which, in Logan's opinion, was just as well. Is Maddie here yet? He asked his mother. I don't know. Is she under the bed? Logan's mom grinned and glanced through the bathroom door at the giant canopy bed upon which Logan lay. No, we don't fit. I'm not going to ask how you know that, his mother said, then went back to fixing her makeup. When the phone rang, she reached for it, and Logan heard her talking. Yes, excellent. Send her up. Is Maddie? She's on her way up, his mother told him, and Logan bounced off the bed, ran into the hallway, and flew down the big stairs of the residence. The farther he got from his mother, the more chaotic everything became. There were people with huge bunches of flowers, and staffers running up and down the stairs in high heels. But all Logan saw was Maddie. Mad dog! Logan screamed from the top of the stairs, racing to join her on the landing below. You look. Is my dress too wrinkled? Maddie blurted as if the answer really, really mattered. He shook his head. No, I don't think so. But Logan trailed off as he followed Maddie's gaze through the bulletproof glass. The chaos of the building all but disappeared as outside a helicopter landed on the lawn. A group of men and women were running toward the house, crouching low beneath the helicopter's spinning blades. Only the last two men off the chopper walked upright, laughing and talking as they strolled towards the doors. Maddie turned to Logan. Dad's home. Maddie couldn't be sure if she was talking about Logan's father or her own. The statement was true in either case. But there was no denying that as the two dads came into the house, the place went a little more, a little less crazy. There was an energy that always surrounded Logan's father. Some people stopped. Some people stared. But there was another group of people who seemed to constantly swirl and swarm around him, like a high five of bees caught inside a series of very tiny tornadoes, spinning in his orbit, while everyone else hurried to get out of the way. Everyone except Logan's mom. She didn't spin or rush or stare as she walked toward her husband. Her red dress flowing behind her, she moved down the stairs. You're late, she said. Mr. President, one of the assistants cut in. The speaker is waiting for you. He can wait until the president has kissed his wife and hugged his son and changed into something decent, the First Lady told the woman. And with that, the tiny tornadoes moved on to another part of the White House. Hello, darling, Logan's dad told the First Lady as he leaned down to kiss her. When he pulled away, she made a face and said, You smell. Then she shifted her gaze onto Maddie. What are we going to do with them, Mad? Maddie could only shake her head. Boys always smell, she said truthfully. You get used to it, sweetheart, Logan's mom told her. But Logan's dad didn't seem to mind. He just reached for his son. I'm sorry, I lost my place. He just reached for his son and said, Hey, kiddo. Then he turned to Maddie. Cadet? Maddie dropped into a curtsy. It's a pleasure to see you again, Logan's dad. And you, Manchester's daughter, the president bowed at the waist. You are a far lovelier sight than your father, I can assure you. Thank you. My dress wasn't wrinkled when I put it on, you should know. The wrinkles are entirely Charlie's fault. I'll have a word with Charlie, the president said, as Maddie's dad tried to pull her into a hug. Come here, Mad. She pulled away and looked at the First Lady. You're right, they do stink. This is what I get for keeping the president safe, Maddie's father asked. From treasonous deer, it's hard work, I'm sure. The First Lady turned to her husband. Now, do I need to remind the pair of you that the Russian Prime Minister and his entire entourage, your entire cabinet, and all 7 viewers of C-SPAN are expecting our very first state dinner to commence in just 45 minutes? Logan's dad cut a look at Maddie's. Save me from her, Manchester. But Maddie's father shook his head. Sorry, Mr. President, this time you're on your own. It wasn't until the First Lady dragged the president upstairs that Maddie felt Logan stir beside her. He'd been perfectly quiet, perfectly still, as if content to be a mere fly on the wall in the president's presence. Then her father asked, "How you doing, rascal?" And Logan's eyes got bigger. "Did my dad really kill a deer?" "No." Maddie's father crouched against the windowsill, bringing himself down closer to Logan's level. "Your father and a senator from Kentucky and I sat in a tree in the woods for 7 hours hoping to kill a deer." "And you didn't see one?" Logan asked. "No." Maddie's dad shook his head slowly. "We saw one." Logan's eyes were wide. "My dad didn't shoot it?" "No." Maddie's dad sounded like he was carefully considering the answer. "Your dad was more interested in getting a vote out of the senator from Kentucky." Logan still looked confused. "You had a gun? Why didn't you shoot it?" Maddie's father seemed to think this was an excellent question. He leaned a little lower. "Because when I shoot, it isn't for fun." "It's because you have to?" Logan said. Maddie's father nodded. "And what's more important than shooting Rascal?" Logan only had to think about the answer for a moment. "Making sure you don't have to." Maddie's dad tousled Logan's hair. "Great job." When Maddie's father tried to pull her into another hug, Maddie pushed away, even though her dress was already wrinkled. "You really do smell, Dad." "Okay, Mad Dog, I'll give up. I'll go shower." "Now, what are you two going to do in the next 45 minutes? Maddie and Logan looked at each other and gave almost identical shrugs. "Fine," her dad said. "Don't tell me. Just stay in the house and stay out of the way. It's kind of crazy around here." He was almost out of sight before they said in unison, "We noticed." Maddie was used to being pseudo-invisible, but Logan had been in the spotlight. This is still the first chapter. I'm gonna go ahead to the very end of the first chapter. You can see how the relationship's developing. Then he stopped. This is the end of the first chapter. Then he stopped and brought one hand to his earpiece, and everything changed. "What is it?" he asked Logan, who was trembling. They could still hear the rattling of the cart's wheels as the Russians broke into a run. "My mom! They have—" Sirens were starting to blare, and Maddie's dad was already breaking away and drawing his weapon. Maddie had seen his gun a million times, but she'd never seen it like that before. Like it was an extension of him, a far colder and deadlier limb. "You two hide!" her dad yelled as he started to run, and the Russians started to fire. Okay, so that's the end of first. We didn't read the whole first chapter, but you got the end of it, the suspense part. So this would be a good one for ladies and gentlemen, for both of you. Last year I had a few male students who really love this book as well, not just the girls. So I think it'd be good for any of you. Happy reading.